So this is going to be the first video for English in LegaLift, and this is going to be a short introduction to CLAT for the English section. By the way, the initiative, as we call it, LegaLift, is a student-run initiative that is run by the students of NALSAR, and more specifically the most recent batch is going to join, which is my batch, the 2024 to 2029 batch. I think I don't have to summarize it, but this initiative is to provide legal education for CLAT and make it very much accessible and make it better for aspirants who are trying or aspiring to clear CLAT and join different law schools in India. And for my introduction, my name is Priyanshu, also called Priyansh, and I got All India rank 307 in CLAT 2024, and I had 24 out of 24 in English section of CLAT 2024. And this is a picture of NALSAR University of Law. I do hope that many of you who are going to watch this hopefully make it into law schools and hopefully join NALSAR itself. So as far as English section is concerned, as you know, from 2023 to 2024 the questions were reduced. Now it's 120 questions rather than 150 questions, which it used to be. This is the syllabus is from the official website of NALSAR itself. Sorry, not NALSAR, from the consortium itself. They released it. So there are many other websites which are providing syllabus, but this is an official one, so I'm showing this. So as we can see, it's saying 450 words, which means it is going to be a pretty lengthy passage. It's not going to be a small passage. This is for introduction. If you already knew it, good. If you didn't, this is what you're going to face if you're going to write CLAT. This passage will be derived from contemporary or historically significant fiction. The point here is to notice significant, that if they are going to ask you historical question, and even contemporary, I would say they will only ask you significant. 99% of times they will only ask you significant. So you should keep an eye on current affairs. And there's also fiction and non-fiction. So obviously non-fiction is current affairs and all things that are happening close to you, which are something a common man would know normally or may not know depending on the subject itself. But fiction, it's just novels and thing we read. Like, you can be an avid reader of fiction. Then it is and would be of standard that a 12th standard student may be able to read in about 5 to 7 minutes. So the level they are taking is senior secondary level, and we can assume that it's CBSE level. So in that case, NCRTs, you should see your speed. If I would recommend that you should check your speed in NCRT books, and you should have a good grasp on NCRT books. Each passage will be followed by a series of questions. So it's all the syllabus, and it's like read and comprehend the main point discussed in the passage, as well as arguments and viewpoint discussed. This is also a point to note. They can ask you which is a valid argument, or they can ask you different arguments, who gave that argument and what was that viewpoint, was he supportive of it. Very, very common questions. Draw inference and conclusions. These are kind of logical questions, but they can be taken into English also, because I would say that in CLAT we have 3 sections only, which is English, QT and CA, because legal and logical are essentially English itself. If you have a good grasp in English, then more or less you will do well in other subjects too, like legal and logical. So rank deciding marks are this ones, QT and CA. Summarize the passage. Yes, they can ask you a summary of this passage, compare and contrast the different arguments or viewpoints set out in the passage. You can compare the arguments like or contrast, like how was the viewpoint in a positive way or negative way, or contrasting viewpoint. So it's overall that understanding meaning of various words and phrases. This is essentially a vocabulary, like how many words you know, antonym, synonym, and that kind of questions. So NCRT, I don't have to say it again, but NCRT you should be able to read it. If you cannot, like, it depends on your level. If you're like super beginner, if you're here, then I think in English and you did not study English well in your school days, then you should start with NCRT, I would say. And if you're at average level, you should finish NCRT. Like if you're in 12th standard, you should finish NCRT in one day at least, both books in one day itself. Maybe 2-3 times you read that. That will be a good starting point. Then after that, the Hindu is one of the newspapers that is very highly recommended, and I have used it. So I would say it's very important to read this newspaper. You can use other also, but I would recommend this one because I have only read this one. And other than that, for fiction, it's a tedious task, but you can read novels if you want to. If you're already a fan of novels, it will not be a tedious task. But reading novels or reading editorial, I would say reading editorial is much more better, just because there is a good chance that the editorials will be directly asked in the question paper itself. While novels, you don't know the novel you read will come in the question paper or not. There is a good chance it will not. Like, you have multiple novels. It's fiction at the end of the day. There is abundance of it. While editorial, you have a certain amount of days, and it's more connective, and it helps you in CA too. And so I would say I would highly recommend, if you have to choose between novels and the Hindu newspaper editorial, then you should choose the Hindu newspaper editorial. Then this is just something I did. Like, I would hope that you will improve on that. What I did was I studied for 6 months only for this exam. At the end, from July to December or June to December, I don't remember correctly. December was exam, right? So what I did was I read the editorial of every day. I missed some days, obviously, I don't have to say it, but overall I did almost all days, like 80 to 70% days or 90%, close to those days. So I completed the editorials and I stuck it in a page and like this, and I wrote the words of that editorial which I did not understand, essentially, because vocabulary is very important for this exam. If you are not able to understand the words written in the passage, how are you going to understand the passage itself, right? कुछ समझ ही नहीं आएगा आपको. And then question भी आपको, मतलब, you will be too lost, essentially. That's what I will say. And I also used to write the title of that editorial. Like, there are 2 big editorial, I will write the title of that editorial, just because to make my title making skills better or something like that. I just did it. And you can also use PIB, Press Information Bureau, but it's not easy, I'm telling you right now. I did it for 2 months and it took a lot of time, and it helped me. Like, if newspaper, you're gonna get a news now at the morning, in 12 o'clock at night you will get that news at midnight, because Press Information Bureau normally releases press at night or by morning or one day before. So you will be in front of the newspaper, essentially, before the news even reaches the newspaper and it is printed. You will get the news in PIB, Press Information Bureau. It's the official press, I don't know how to phrase it, but it's official. It's a press portal or press, I don't know, press newspaper for the government of India. It's where they publish the news, essentially. You got the point. So for vocabulary, I would say read the Hindu. I already told it. If you read English, you have to just read it. जितना पढ़ोगे उतना समझ आएगा. And write the words, learn the difficult words, practice it, and you can read, if you're watching web series and all that, you can watch it with subtitles on. Other than that, you can read other books. And essentially it's all about reading more and more and practicing. Nothing rocket science or anything like that, but it's not gonna be easy for sure if you're just a beginner. Like, Editorials are not going to be easy, but if you do it, you will get the benefit for sure. You will be better off than what you are right now for sure. That's for sure. Then this is one editorial that I have put up as example. I will read it with you guys, and I will give you certain questions. That's what I thought of. That we'll read this editorial. This is, I think, 26 March editorial, and this is small one. Like they have two small one and two large ones. So let's do it. This is all about. This is, by the way, this is about Russia terror strikes in Russia. It's actually in Moscow. If so, the thing is, your previous information definitely helps you. Like if you are a avid reader of international relation and all that, you will automatically able to answer this even without reading the, paper. But there are certain things like ISK. You might know about IS, like Islamic State, but you might not know about ISK. It's just different branch of IS Khorasan. Then other than that, it's about the Croker City Hall that happened. 137 people have at least died. Islamic State was the one who attacked it in January. I'm reading it loudly. This one you can pause and read it. Then it's based on Sunni jihadist group. It's a Sunni jihadist group. I'm just telling you. I'm reading it with you just to tell you what is important and what I do. Like you don't have to follow me, but you can take bits here and there, and you can make your own technique or the way you want to read. Iran targeting a memory of invented General Qasim Soleimani. Now this guy, General Qasim Soleimani, was an Iranian general. If I'm remembering correct, he was killed by US drone strike. He was a very capable Iranian general. He was essentially Shia Muslim. So there is a feud between Shia and Sunnis. At least IS is keeping it alive. They are the ones who are making this feud more, they're just making this feud more and more violent and putting kerosene in the fire, to put it simply. This bombing killed at least 80 people. Since then, the IS has targeted Syria, Afghanistan. Okay. The Russian charged with 4 Tajik nationals. So Tajik nationals. If this passage was in CA, there is a good chance they can even ask you the capital of Tajikistan. Then Afghanistan, Nagorno province in 2015 largely rose up to this branch rose to prominence after Taliban's returned power in Afghanistan in August 2020. Since then, the ISK has attacked Afghanistan. Shia minorities sought to build a network cells with radicalized youth from Central Asia and Afghanistan. With Taliban's Pashtun regime, these networks are now gaining strength. So, due to the Pashtun regime of Taliban, they are gaining, what is they saying? They're gaining strength. Why? Because now when one ethnicity is controlling the country, the other ethnicities are not happy for sure. Like if there are one guy is from community A, other is from community B, but they have almost equal share in the population, but community A is the one leading them and ruling and exploiting community B for the benefit of community A. Obviously we are going to have this kind of feuds, and this is just an example of it. And now the minorities are seeking up to this IS, and they are obviously targeting Shias, and it's easy for them to do it because Afghanistan, as far as I'm aware, it's Sunni majority. Then in recent months, the IS has run propaganda videos against Russia and President Vladimir Putin. The IS claims that the Russians spilled the blood of Muslims in Afghanistan. So this is about when USSR invaded Afghanistan, way back when, before even the US intervention in Afghanistan. That is one of the reasons why Afghanistan is called the graveyard of empires, by the way, because UK attacked it, the Great Britain, it lost. Then USSR attacked it, it lost, and it even fell. UK also fell eventually, but not due to the Afghanistan issue, but US attacked, and US has not fallen, but they definitely lost there. Afghanistan, Chechnya is the part of Russia right now, near the Georgia, in Caucasus Mountain ranges, if I am correct. But it's a Muslim majority region overall, if that's the gist of it. And there was a war when Vladimir Putin entered the presidency of Russia. Chechnya was fighting for independence. because obviously USSR broke off. There were new countries like Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, but now they also wanted independence, Chechnya, but they did not, and they were not successful. And obviously, I don't have to say it, but there was high amount of people who died in those battles. And in Syria, because Russia has intervention in Syria. Bashar al-Assad was the regime that Russia has backed, and US was not supporting Assad. And IS was also fighting for a claim, the claim to power or a piece of cake. But obviously, Russia protected the dictator or the leader of Syria. Al Qaeda in Iraq and IS used anti-Western propaganda to build networks across West Asia. Today, IS is issuing anti-Russian, anti-Iran propaganda to find recruits among Central Asian, Afghan, and Pakistanis. The group, which once controlled terrorists across Syria and Iraq, has now transformed itself into a traditional terrorist outfit that hides in chaos and strikes on public. So this ISK actually had land and they had territories. Right now, they don't have this branch of IS. That's what it is saying. The back-to-back attacks pose a serious security challenge to the Eurasian region, especially for Russia, which hosts thousands of Central Asian migrant laborers. So essentially, Central Asia was part of Russia or USSR, but right now they can easily go inside Russia with passport, if I'm correct. So that is the case. So it's a security concern for Russia because many people from Central Asia have entered into Russia, and it can create a security issue. And as we know, Russia has a declining population. So this is small editorial, the left side. I don't know if you can call it editorial, but it's written on the left side of the editorial. Left side जो होता है editorial उसमें लिखा हुआ है. तो सीधी बात वही है कि रशिया में अटैक हो गया और वो क्यों बढ़ रहा है. Why is ISK growing and what is the reason they have attacked, and the history of the group somewhat, and the history of Russia in a way, how they entered into Afghanistan and all that. So this is a security concern, and obviously the author is concerned about it. So the first thing we can make out of this question, what does author believe? Does he support the IS? Does he not? Does he support peace? Does he support Russia? This can be a question. And they can ask you, मेरे memory General Qasim Soleimani. So who was General Qasim Soleimani? Which country he was from? This can be inferred from Iran. Here, Iran, targeting a memorial event, had carried out twin bombings in Kerman, Iran. So if a memorial is happening in a country of a general, we can assume that it's the memorial of general of that country itself, so Iran. So they can ask you which country was General Soleimani from. Other than that, they can even ask you a simple question like, what is the dictator's name in Bashar in Syria? Then other than that, they can even ask you, what was the nationality of the attackers? They can ask you, and other than that, they can even ask you the name of the city hall. They can even ask you the majority, like what sect of Islam does ISK support, which is Sunni sect, not Shia sect. Now this is the second editorial and we will read it together. The first time in which China brokered defense ties between Saudi Arabia and Iran marched and passed without much fanfare. The war in Gaza has enveloped almost all regional political diplomatic capacity across the Persian Gulf. Okay, while also highlighting international actors and their co-interests amidst this fallout, Beijing has taken a that is clearly pro-Palestine, in line with its historical standing on the issue alienating its relationship with China. China, you want to be superpower. This is the heading of this. So it's about China and it wants to be superpower, and the wording of this title essentially tells that the author is not too fond of China. However, in China's state control, Chinese President Xi Jinping's success in bringing together Riyadh and Tehran was highlighted. Riyadh and Tehran are essentially capitals of Saudi Arabia and Iran, if you didn't know. As an issue, the Chinese position promote peace and global peace on the anniversary, which quoted regional underscored a sense of fatigue with the best condition relation. The Chinese media outlet Xinhua has said China's peace still on with the Middle East countries. So initially, it was a diplomatic step by China to bring peace in Saudi Arabia and Iran. The diplomatic ties were very low, and even ambassadors were not uh, present in the countries of Saudi Arabia and Iran of each other, respectively. So China brokered a peace, and Saudi Arabian ambassador went to Iran, Iran's ambassador went to Saudi Arabia, and they are becoming peaceful. And why their ties were wrong is actually connected with the last editorial that we read, or last small editorial that we read, which is Shia and Sunni issue. Saudi Arabia is essentially a Sunni majority, but Iran is not a Sunni majority country. And there is also angle of US. US supports more Saudi Arabia rather than Iran. So that is also a reason. A push towards mediation diplomacy has been an aspiration designed for China on two major fronts. First, its position itself as an antithesis to what Beijing's dictate worth of Western intervention politics within a region such as where conflicts are direct correlation with colonial history. Second, it is increased on geopolitical weight as a responsible international actor and power. However, both these aims have been confronted by realities around the war in Gaza. China has taken a clear stand toward the Arab side and has not condemned Hamas by name. Much of the reasoning behind this is to counter long-standing American influence and take advantage of service in the region, especially by the likes of Saudi and United Arab Emirates, which are looking to chart their own path of strategic autonomy and willing to partner with Beijing, despite having close security ties with Washington DC. So, China wants to be a mediator, a middleman who brings peace. But the author is saying that first thing, it wants to be a, in a way, alternative to the Western decade, which is essentially the decade of Americans. So it wants to be alternative to that. China essentially wants to be number one. And second, it is increased in geopolitical, but overall, China is not doing it well, because Gaza war has clearly shown that China is more supportive of Arabs. I don't know how this happened, but yeah. And not supportive of Israel, which essentially tells us that China cannot be a mediator, because a mediator has to be neutral. But this guy, China, I should not call it this guy, but the nation of China, or People's Republic of China, is not actually a mediator in this case. It is taking sides. So it cannot be superpower, something like that. To the Wang Yi, Director of Office of Foreign Affairs Minister of China, Wang Yi, committee endorsed plan to set up a new China mediation in Hong Kong. It would project committee within Pakistan international perpetuity official Chinese hosting the mediation is very expensive. So it is saying that Chinese foreign minister told that they want to make a mediation, international mediation organization, like they want to become a mediator. It's not the same as International Court of Justice, but it's different. But they want to solve issues. They want to be the country which tells them, "Come on, let's sit together and solve issues." But Israel did not sign it. Other countries did, and it wanted to connect BRI Border Road Initiative with this initiative, and it's easy for China to do it because they have given much loan to many countries, and other countries are not in a position to say no. But Israel, being heavily reliant on America, will definitely not join it. And Prime Minister of Israel Benjamin Netanyahu also told it last year that China had invited him to a state visit. So essentially, the author is saying in this part that China is absent in the Red Sea, and there is a chance that Russian and Chinese vessels are not targeted by the Houthi rebels in Yemen. As you know, there is a civil war happening in Yemen at the moment, and it's backed by Iran. So Iran and China and Russia have good relations. So the author is telling that there were reports that Chinese vessels and Russian vessels were not targeted by Houthi rebels for reasons unknown to us. But by author's assumption, there is a chance that China had struck a deal with Iran, and if that is the case, it shows the crafty diplomacy that China is doing right now. And at high stakes war like Gaza, they are not very, very useful, and they are not helping in any way, to say in simple words. And only reason why China wants to be a mediation power, or why it wants to show itself as a mediation power, is to show that Western power is bad and its influence is not good for the world, while also increasing its influence. Other than that, in high stakes war, it takes sides, and it's not a good mediator, as you can say. In perspective, the last point, China seems this word, China seems content predominantly displacing American hegemony without replacing it. They want to displace Americans but don't want to replace Americans. So what Americans are doing, you believe it or not, they are doing some kind of good works. They are maintaining a world order at this point, and China wants to displace them as the number one position, while not being the number one position and helping others. China just wants to help itself, in simple words. Even a perception of being soft, you understand safely against it. China is more about its internal security rather than external. It's political security of regime rather than states. They don't care about the state. They don't care if India gets destroyed. They care about the political regime. They want the political regime to be pro of it. And that's essentially what China is. China is a country, but its name is People's Republic of China. The party, Communist Party of China. Even the army is not called Chinese Army, Chinese National Army. It's called People Liberation Army, which is essentially it's the army of the party which rules China. So they are more about the regime, not about the state or nation. And this is what author is saying. Arguably, this could appropriately explain what formula. So arguably, this could appropriately explain what formalized Chinese mediation would aim for. They would aim for a better political regime that supports it. Doesn't matter if the state falls, doesn't matter if state destroys, doesn't matter if citizens die. If there is a pro regime, they don't care. If there is no pro regime, they are fine with destroying it into 4 pieces. This is what author is saying. It's a very vague statement. Actually, it's not a very directive, as it's said arguably, but it's what it is. Still being want to be super covers and having like alternative Western side. Yeah, lack of settlement offering hollow. So there can be a question, what is author's opinion? It's very clear that author is not pro-China. Even with title you can tell it. But is the author pro-West in this case? I would say he is not very pro-West, but because he is not told that West is better in any way or anything. It's relatively better in his opinion. If there was question, is West considered relatively better than Chinese in the case of superpower as it's in the title, then it would be the West is better relatively. And often science textbook, China still has few answers substitute long suffering Japan for now, despite sight remains between purpose thus to hedge against other than being up against Asia. Utilitarian, to use others to hedge against. Yeah, it's something that you can use better than wrangling a checkbook using serious coverage. So this passage was all about talking what China wants to be, and China's, as we see, it wants to be the mediator, it wants to displace USA, and this author Kabir Taneja, Mr. Kabir Taneja, is not very supportive of China in that case. So this is how you do editorials. You read it. I don't think I found any word which I was not knowing the meaning of, or I felt I didn't know the meaning, but there is a chance you might not know some words in this case. Even not know many concepts, like you might not know, as I said, Riyadh and Tehran. Other than that, BRI, what is BRI? You might not know. These countries you might not have heard much of them, especially Djibouti, Sudan, Indonesia. And that, I don't see any word which is very tough in this case. Hegemon, I think almost everyone will be knowing it, but Great Tense, it is a name. And this is a little bit relatively harder editorial compared to the last one. I have completed it. It's about Carnatic music. Now this kind of editorial, if it comes in your exam, there's a high chance that you will not be knowing it, just because it's a rare topic. First of all, unless and until you're from Kannada, you will have no idea what Carnatic music is. So if editorial comes in this topic, you're essentially doomed. Editorial question comes in CA especially, unless you have studied it, obviously. So it's about a singer. His name is T.M. Krishna. He got a musical award by the Madras Academy. The name of the award is Sangeeta Kalanidhi Award. Now this singer essentially, by the way, if anyone of you know about this, that's very good. You can even comment it. He got the award, Sita Kalanidhi Award by Madras Academy, and many famous singers did not appear in the award ceremony. They withdrew. There were two group of sisters. They withdrew. One famous singer who got in the same award in 2017 gave it back. He is a very unorthodox singer who follows new patterns. Like, it's more about like Brahmanical order and Periyar ideology. They think that he's more pro Periyar and talks on topics which are normally not talked about, which essentially, it's common, right? If you bring some kind of new ideology and it is not acceptable in the society, then there is a good chance that there will be people who will try to safeguard the old ways. But the author, essentially the question can be, what does author feel? And in this case, author is supportive of our singer T.M. Krishna. Then you can be asked the names, essentially who are the people who withdrew. Other than that, there were three words which I did not knew the meaning of, like eclectic. Eclectic, essentially, for example, if a question came in exam, tell antonym of eclectic, I might be able to guess it by elimination or something like that, but overall I have no idea what eclectic was until few moments ago. It essentially means follower of ancient beliefs. So vocabulary is important. You should know word. Like, how many of you know the word pedagogy? How many of you know the word of conspicuous? It's an easy word comparatively. How many of you know the meaning of myriad? Or let's go with dystopia. It's a very easy word, but and that egalitarian. Then there's also proletariat. So these are the words and more which you have to know to give your best in CLAT, especially in English section, because there's good chance that compared to other section, this type of words will come in the English section only. Logical and legal, there can be some technical words, but overall English section will have words like this. Legal section, you will be given a passage and you will be given the explanation also. So it's not that hard. If you have a good grasp in English and you can read it fast, you will be able to do it. So the way you can go for English is only read, 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 and be active. Don't be just like I'm reading, skipping the words I don't know. That is the wrong way. You have to read, find the words you don't know, learn from your mistakes, and actively fix them. That's the way you do it. And there is no substitute for hard work. There is no substitute for hard work. That's something that you should keep in your brain. Even smart work is not a substitute for hard work, because the smart work will only work if you do hard work, essentially. काम जो है in this section that I have told you, and I believe for English section what is enough, I will tell you that. Words, if you know the words. Reading habit. And if you're a total beginner from a background or a non-English background, even from school days, you should start with NCERT. As they've already told, they expect you to read 12th standard level English, senior secondary level. Verbs, nouns and all that, they can be useful, but only go for them after you have done this. If you have good reading habit, if you have a good amount of vocabulary, then you go for more detailed study of English. Then you can go even for papers which are considered more tougher in English section compared to CLAT. But before that, you should even also have mock test. This is just an introductory video, so I think I should keep it short. What I've done, let's recall it all. I just showed you 2 editorials. I gave you some idea of vocabulary, what I did, and the syllabus, and just a basic introduction. It's a basic introduction video, and I never read much any novel for this exam. I never read it. It might have been a mistake, but for me it was not, because luckily I got all correct. So at the end it was not, but it could have been a mistake depending on the exam day. Other than that, what I did was one thing only, which was in the newspaper's editorial, and I followed it diligently. I even followed PIV for 33% of my preparation time, and CA. But the editorial will fix your all 3 sections, like legal, logical, and English. Everything will be fixed. If you're not doing editorial, then I think it's foolish. It's like your preparation is not complete until and unless you're reading editorials and reading newspapers, because it helps you in CA and all 4 sections other than QT, and it's very important to do, and it's just a simple task that you have to follow. And if you don't want to, don't follow PIV. It's not gonna help you much. It's not worth the effort you put in, essentially speaking. Other than that, I think I will keep it short. I don't want to waste your time. It was just the beginning, the first video, and I'm pretty sure more great videos will be coming from different people or my batchmates. And this is the end of the video. Follow and subscribe LegaLift social handles. At the time of recording of this video, we are not present in all social handles, but I'm pretty sure by the time this video is uploaded, you all will be able to find social handles. And this is my Insta ID. You can follow me if you want to. And all the best for preparation. That's what I wish you. Wish you luck. And